Welcome back to Rocket Talk. Sunday is here, so that means it's time for more nerd news. I'm here with my co-hosts, as always, Luke Peterson and Johnny Lorem. And I guess let's just jump right on into it. So Min Min has been in Smash Bros. For a little while now. Johnny and I have both gotten a chance to play as her. I don't know, Luke, have you gotten a chance?
Me too.
All right. So I guess we could just start off with our thoughts on her as an addition to the numerous characters that we can now play as. Johnny, let's start with you. What do you think of Min Min as now a fighter in Smash Bros?
I love it a lot. As I've said before on the show a few times, that ARMS is my most played Switch game, with at this point, almost 200 hours. But I know some people that already have Animal Crossing at 500 hours, so maybe that's not super impressive. But regardless, yeah, I'm really happy that an ARMS character at all is in the game. Min Min is not my first choice, but she certainly makes the most sense, and I think that I'm happy. I'm not disappointed that necessarily that it's Min Min over somebody else, because she's a lot of fun to play as, and in Smash. I don't spend a lot of time playing as her in ARMS, but I mean, everything about her screams like, you know, that she belongs in Smash, I think, more than most of the other members of the cast. So I love that she has the longest reach, which isn't really surprising, but it's good to have confirmed. And she's a little simpler than most characters. Like Byleth is kind of complicated, and I think even Joker is a little complicated, but she's pretty simple. She just punches really far, and that's pretty great. Like I think she's a lot of fun, and she's easy to play as.
Yeah, I would definitely say she's the easiest to pick up out of all of the DLC characters so far. Yeah, because like I said, Joker and Byleth, there's a lot. It's a hard to master with everything, and Piranha Plant's probably the only other one that like is pretty simple to pick up because of just the different things that Banjo has as well, and Hero. So yeah, I definitely would agree. It's been fun to play as her. I've been trying to branch out because I play so much as Kirby on World of Light. I'm trying to play as other people, so I'm not just always Kirby. So it's been nice to play someone else.
I'm one of my mains is Little Mac. He's probably like my number 2, and I like Punchy Boys, simple, and this is exactly like Little Mac but with an extra reach. Not quite as fast, but I'm not going to add anything that you guys haven't already said. She just fits right in, and yeah, it's really been fun to play with. And I guess now, since we're on like early impressions, not from Min Min, not too early, but we have Paper Mario plus DKC is now on Switch for the SNES console. And Johnny, why don't you go into Paper Mario, your first thoughts?
Can you guys hear the trumpet in the back? We can cut this.
Actually, yeah, I can.
Yeah, there's a guy outside my apartment right now that's just playing the trumpet. So nice. If you guys don't mind just waiting until he's done.
Yeah.
And DKC.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of taking it one world at a time, like about one world each day. And there's 5 worlds, and then I'm assuming there's going to be a 6th secret world when you get to the castle. And when I played it the first day...
Spoiler!
Well, the whole goal is to get to the castle, and that's never just a simple task. So, but I'm the first day on Friday when I got it, I played it, and I wouldn't say disappointed was the word, because I definitely didn't go in with very high hopes, like a high, like, you know, idea of what it was going to be like. But I was still kind of bummed that it just wasn't. I mean, with the few things that Nintendo's given us for this year so far, it just seemed like this was not something that is going to be good to be the only thing to tide me over. But then I played it. I beat the first world, and then I played the second world the following day, which was at the day of recording this would be yesterday. And I liked it a lot more. It got a lot. There was something about it that just got more like, I think maybe I just like. I started to appreciate it more for, I can't really understand why exactly, but I'm not a huge fan of the battle system. It's a puzzle, and it just seems tedious, and you don't get experience points from it, so it's kind of like there's not very much reward for even getting into fights at all, so I just find myself avoiding them. But as I play more and more, if I'm ever thrown into a fight that I don't want to be in, I'm hating it less. So like I know that I shouldn't have to hate a game less. I should like it more as I go on, but that's just one element of it. The writing itself is fantastic. It's really funny, it's really cute, it's really fun. And there's even like surprisingly there was a part in where I'm at right now. I played it this morning, and there was a part that was about death and sacrifice, like genuine death, and I was a little like concerned because it's an E for everybody game, but it's there was like mourning, and it's not just like a character that was like never there, but it was a character that you the player got to know very well, and they died, and then you have to go through the mourning of the character that died that you knew well, and it was like really like it was like whiplash from like cuteness and fun to like just like, whoa, this is a drama now. Okay. And then you see the ghost of the person that died, and they're saying, I don't want, like, I'm trying not to give spoilers, but for like who it was, but they basically try to give a positive message to the ones that are still alive and say, I didn't die, so everyone would be sad about my death. And it was very, they're like, I want people to live and be happy. And it was very morbid, and which like surprisingly, like I appreciated that, which I didn't expect it at all, but it was very real, and it's something that you don't see very often from Nintendo games, but Mario games especially. So it was very like, I don't know. I really liked that they did that. I would have never expected that they would, but that was one thing that was really cool. Boss battles were complicated at first, but eventually I started to understand kind of how they worked a lot better. And the characters are just great. Like I think that the characters in all Paper Mario games kind of make up what makes them the most fun. And but yeah, it's mostly the battle system, and a lot of the gameplay itself is just not something that I'm totally a big fan of, but I'm starting to hate it less as I play more. So I'll definitely be beating it in the next few days, but it's definitely not my favorite Paper Mario game, and I'm not sure that I'm ever going to have a favorite Paper Mario game, because Thousand Year Door is just too good. But it's maybe in the middle, I would say. From what I've played so far, it's like in the middle of the ones that I've played. So
I still plan on buying that, so it's nice to hear that it's not
yeah
totally worthless.
It's not sticker star or color splash level bad, but it's not as good as the first two.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that, because there's nothing else that you really have an option of buying, it's kind of like, well, you might as well buy this one because Nintendo's not giving us anything else for a while. So yeah, it's good. I recommend it for now, but I wouldn't have necessarily recommended it had we been in a normal situation where we had more options to buy games. But yeah, it's a decent game. Overall, I'm enjoying it now. It's something that's, I think the more you play it, the more you learn to appreciate it. And I've heard that there's a lot of twists and turns as like for the story as it goes on. So I'm just excited to see what all that is.
Nice.
Okay, so
And then, as Connor mentioned, Donkey Kong Country. It was one of the additions for the Super Nintendo and NES online service. So I know Johnny's very happy about that. How much have you already played of that since it was added a couple days ago?
Well, I beat it the first day it was out, but now it's I mean, it's great. It's good and bad for me. Well, not bad, but it's the good is that like I have easy access to it, but the not as good for me is that like I've always had access to it. Like I'm looking at my Super Nintendo right now, and it's got Donkey Kong Country in it, and so like I can play it on the Super Nintendo console whenever I want, but it's still just convenient to have it on the Switch as well. And now I can
play it on the go.
Well, yes, and I can play it with friends online, which is great. So I can co-op DK and Diddy with either of you two or with our friend Court. And it's great. Like now I can just I don't have to be anywhere else. I can play it with you guys in the comfort of my own room.
There you go.
So,
have you played the other two games yet either? Not ratted?
No. I don't remember what they were, but neither of them interested me. And I like that Nintendo was trying to equally highlight all three of them, but the internet was like, don't really care. Donkey Kong Country is on the Switch.
Well, you knew that too, because right after they announced it, they put out that extra video, like giving tips, like how to get the extra lives.
Yeah,
and all that, because it's like people don't care, but like people are like, oh, cool, more games, but it's like, oh, Donkey Kong. So
yeah. Yeah, there's like 30 games that nobody cares about, and then maybe 5 that people do. So, when they inevitably release Donkey Kong 2 and Donkey Kong 3, I'll be playing those again as well, and I'll be making sure that everybody who has a Switch plays through them, because the second one is the best one and one of the best games of all time. So, that needs to be released on Switch.
Agreed. All right, so sticking within the realms of video games, but moving on to a newer generation, PlayStation 5 has shown us, actually specifically Jeff Keighley, has shown us some hands-on action with the DualSense PS5 controller on the 17th of this month. I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch the entire 25-minute video. I watched the entire thing as well. And so I guess we'll just go with our thoughts on that. Luke, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so for those who didn't know, Jeff Keighley, who runs the Game Awards, and he's been kind of spearheading Summer Game Fest, which is kind of the name for the replacement for everything E3 this year. He did a bonus little hands-on with it, so he showed off the PS5 controller for the first time, and showed it next to it what a DualShock 4 looks like compared to it, and then he was sent a demo of Astro's Playroom, which is a free-to-play game that's going to be installed on all PS5s. We mentioned the game. Excuse me. We mentioned the game during the PlayStation 5 reveal, but I didn't realize this when we talked about it at the time, that it's actually going to be preloaded to every PS5 without having to download it. So if you go and buy a PS5 day one, that game's going to be in there. And so Keighley showed it off and just kind of talked about a little bit of the new features that it has with the haptic feedbacks and the triggers having the be able to have like tension and all that. So, it wasn't a whole lot we haven't seen. It was nice to really see it in see it in action a little bit. The game looks like it's gonna be fun. It's nice that the game is gonna be a somewhat expansive game that's completely free. So that'll be cool too. That we'll be able to have if we all buy a PS5 day one, we have a next-gen game built in without having to do anything. So as soon as you get the console set up, you can go play it. And that'll probably be one of the first things I'll do when I get my PS5 is go and play that. So that was exciting. And then Keighley interviewed someone in the marketing team for PlayStation, and they just kind of talked about what their goals were with all this, and there was some rumors about a PS5 pre-order popping up soon, and they said that's not happening yet, but they'll let us know. So yeah, I definitely was happy with it. What about you guys? I know since you guys are not as much into the PlayStation as I know Johnny's looking to get into PS5, but what were your guys' thoughts on the controller?
It was nice to see in his hands. I didn't really learn too much that I didn't already know, other than that maybe the mic is a little bit more powerful than I initially thought it was going to be, and that it weighs a little bit more than the DualShock 4. It would have been nice to learn how much of a charge it could hold. I'm not sure if he would have been able to play it long enough.
PS4 controller has a pretty bad battery.
Yeah, that's something that everyone's going to be thinking. So it would have been nice to learn that. Or, and I know the guy he was interviewing kind of shut down talk on color variations in the future. That would have also been nice to know. Or how much they're going to charge for an individual set if you want to have a wired version or just a Bluetooth version, or yeah.
Well, it's going to be wireless, but you'll be able to play it wired, and there'll be an option you'll be able to change. But it's going to be wired. Hopefully, it's cheaper than what Nintendo's trying to do with the Joy-Con. Since
oh my gosh,
a set of Joy-Con for $80 is quite a lot. The PS4 and Xbox One controllers sell for about $60 when they're not on sale, but they're always on sale at Walmart and Best Buy. So
there's just so much. But I mean, it wasn't the video was not a disappointment at all. Like when he was describing the feedback with sand brushing, being sprayed into the face of the little robot. Is Astro? Is the
Yeah.
name? Yeah. That was interesting to learn. So it was not a total loss.
Yeah, I would have maybe liked a little more gameplay, but I mean,
Yes.
I always just like more gameplay anyways. But yeah, what about you, Johnny? Any thoughts?
Yeah, mostly like nothing too deep. It just stuff like this just gets me more and more excited about the system in general, and learning more, even if it's about the controller. It just gets me excited to. It gets me something to look forward to, but also something I need to prepare for, because a new system means that I'm paying for all of the games that go with the system as well. So it's going to be more than just
game
like
you got to pay for.
Well, yeah, it's just gonna be a lot of money that's gonna go down the drain for me. But hopefully, it's a lot more time. And I mean, it already seems like PlayStation is doing a lot more for the console that's not even out yet than Nintendo is for the console that is. So that's some shade throwing at Nintendo. Get it together. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm just excited to know when I can buy it,
Yes. And actually, staying within the realm of Sony, holy cow, they are going to be increasing production to 10 million consoles in 2020, and apparently the pandemic is a big reason for that. Luke, do you want to break this down?
Yeah, so PS5 is still on schedule to come out this holiday season, probably November. But originally, it was reported that Sony was going to have a little less than what they did with the PS4, the PS3, in terms of units produced. They were going to have about 5 million to 6 million, I want to say, by the end of the fiscal year, by the end of March. But with just the whole pandemic and how the demand for gaming has gone up even more than it already has, they decided they were going to increase production, especially as countries that aren't America are seeing a little better reaction to getting over COVID, since they wear their masks. Wear your mask. But so yeah, it looks like we're going to see more, which will be good, because originally when it was going to be only a few million, I knew that like basically the day that pre-orders went up, I was going to have to get my copy right there. I'm still probably going to do it day one, but it'll be nice to know that if I miss it by like an hour, I'm not going to probably miss out on getting a PlayStation. So yeah, it's nice to see. Because hopefully that means that PS5s won't be hard to get in stock once they do come out. So that is nice. It is nice to get some more news about the PlayStation, even if they aren't giving us the things that we want, like the price and the release date. But it is good to know that we're going to be able to at least 10 million worldwide. That's a lot. So that'll be nice, because like I said, I got my PS4 day one. I got a pre-order of it at Target. It was one of the last pre-orders they had. And so I was happy with that, because I had mine day one, so I got it after school. And so it'd be nice to get that again, where I don't have to go and wait in line hours to pick up one that is not going to even have a chance to get it.
It's funny how, even though we have not gotten the main chunks of information we desire, Sony still has come out with all these other news bits that we can talk about.
A ton they're still going to give us.
Yeah, it's like going to a restaurant and they give you an endless side salads without the main course. Yeah,
well, like I said before, and like I will keep saying, at least they're giving us something, and Nintendo isn't. So I'm bitter.
Nintendo, since you are listening to this, please give us literally anything.
Hopefully
anything
that
at all.
direct that's rumored to be tomorrow that of when we're recording will actually be up, and we can talk about that. Hey, speaking of Nintendo, Connor, can't you tell us something about Reggie Fils-Aimé?
I was going to ask you how to pronounce that name, and yes, I absolutely can. Publisher Rogue Games has appointed ex-Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aimé as a strategic advisor to its board, just a month after it appointed ex-Sony Computer Entertainment America president Jack Tretton to a similar role. What is going on? Johnny, since you are the Nintendo guy, not necessarily the Rogue Games guy, I was wondering, would you want to break this down?
I know more about just, because on our old show that Connor and I used to have, we talked about Reggie retiring last year, and part of me kind of knew that it wasn't going to be the end, but it is a little Yeah, he is really young, but and he did do a lot for Nintendo. And I was kind of disappointed that he was leaving, but I had a feeling that he would be back. I just didn't think that he would be back for somebody that wasn't Nintendo, you know. So I don't feel betrayed at all, but you know, I just it hurts a little. But.
Yeah, I mean, he also he's been kind of doing a bunch of stuff. He is also on GameStop's board of directors, as well as Spin Master, the Canadian toy entertainment company. But yeah, it's good to see that Rogue Games is going after some big names for their board to help them out, because you know Reggie ran Nintendo, and then Jack Trenton ran Sony Computer Entertainment America, and you know both of them were able to see a huge roller coaster ride in their tenures. You know, think like when Reggie took over in 2003, GameCube was lacking behind, and then they had the Wii, but then they had the Wii U, and then they had the Switch. So like he's had a huge up and down with Nintendo, and then with Jack over at Sony, same type of thing. He was there with Sony at the end of the PS2's life cycle, where that was just like huge, and everyone had a PS2, and then he moved on to the PS3, which kind of faltered for a bit before having a nice resurgence at the end, and then he left a little after the PS4 launch. So they got some really good guys to help with their board to help out this random developer that I don't know a whole lot about, but it's good to see that he's doing something, that Reggie's doing something, because he's, like I said, he's only 59. He'll be 60 next March, so. He's a young boy still.
Got plenty of life in him. Because Rogue is stepping into the console market, right?
That's a good question, man. I don't know. I saw he was joining Rogue Games, and I was like, "Who's that?" And then that's really all.
Yeah. Oh well, we can just edit that part out. Yes, but still sticking with video games, we actually got Luke, you'll have to take this over for us. A Stadia Connect. Do you want to talk about what was announced with Stadia?
Yeah, so like I mentioned in the last episode Connor and I did, where we kind of went over a lot of the E3 things, there was a couple of things left, and so Stadia had their own little E3 replacement, their own Nintendo Direct, Sony State of Play type of thing. They call it Stadia Connect, and I don't know, man, it's another thing where they're continuing to step in the right direction, but it's still kind of a who cares type of thing. So Stadia announced a bunch of new games that are coming to the system over the next few months, including actually some exclusives, which is nice. They got some random games like Outcasters, Orcs Must Die, and all that. It's like whatever. But actually one of the big things they got is Super Bomberman R Online, a new multiplayer Bomberman game, is coming first to Stadia in the fall, and so it'll be exclusive on Stadia for the first few months. So them getting, Bomberman isn't as big of a name as Sonic or Crash Bandicoot or Call of Duty, but them getting a decent franchise exclusive even for a few months is good for them, because that will get some people to try out the system. So that's good for them. And they announced a few more. Dead by Daylight, NBA 2K, and the Hitman games are coming. So it's like, that's nice and all, but it's still the same issues that I have had with the system since I got my free demo. There's why would I want to pay to play? Yeah, sure, it's nice to be able to just click a button and I can launch PGA Tour 2K21 instead of having to install it on my PS4, but also who knows how long Stadia is going to last, especially as we talked about a few weeks ago with Mixer shutting down. That's another big thing that didn't last long. What's going to happen if Stadia meets the same fate in a year or two? But we got another E3 replacement, another thing. We have a lot more news, so that's cool. But it was kind of boring. I didn't even watch it. I more just kind of checked out the wrap-up review articles to see what was more announced, because it was just like, who cares?
Exactly. I'm just looking at these titles. That's it.
But exactly. So there's some good games in there, so that's nice for anyone who wants it. But that's not going to be something that I'm not going to run out and renew my Stadia subscription so I can play all these games. Like I said, it's good for Bomberman, but
Exactly. If you care about Stadia, then yeah, you can go check that out. But since we don't, I guess we can just move on to the next topic. So, if you guys ever wanted a Nintendo Entertainment System, but the Lego version of it, now you can have that for only $229.99. Lego has officially announced the Lego Nintendo Entertainment System, a replica of the 1985 classic console that also includes a buildable 1980s retro TV that features an 8-bit Mario on a scrolling screen recreation of a Super Mario Bros. Level. I watched a little trailer for it, and it was actually kind of cute. What did you guys think?
I wish I had stupid amounts of money to blow on. Like, I wish I had $230 just to blow.
It seems
awesome,
like something that's like a collectible item, but like I don't think anybody, like, short of like having this just to say you have it, I don't really see a lot of people that would have an interest in it. Like it's a cool
Lego
concept.
Lego collectors are a different breed of people that
Oh yeah.
Like they're gonna like this is great for them because it's like there's so much. Well, Legos are just so expensive. I love Legos, but they're so expensive.
They are.
And but this thing is amazing. Like I said, I wish I had money because I would totally go out and buy one of these if it was not $220.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but it's a cool concept. I saw it and I was like okay.
Nobody asked for it.
Yeah, it just seemed like something that wasn't like necessary, and it seemed like such a niche toy, I guess you could call it, and
they
it
gotta
looks
promote
like
the Mario.
Yeah, which is cool, but I mean, we've gotten just as much Lego Nintendo info between this and the Super Mario set that compared to, I'm not going to stop complaining about the lack of Nintendo
it sounds
content.
like you would like this more if Nintendo gave us more news.
Yeah.
What, this
is
isn't
looking
news?
pretty good, but this is I don't know. It's okay.
Well, it's actually like a pretty big set. Like, listen to this. This is 2,646 piece Lego Nintendo Entertainment System. Will be released on August 1st, 2020 for $230. It also includes a controller with a connecting cable and a plug, and even an opening slot for the Super Mario Bros. Cartridge that has a locking feature to keep it in place in the Lego console.
So it'll be like you actually have it in the NES, and also the Mario Lego that's also coming out in the next few weeks. You can put it on top of that CRT, and he'll know it's the CRT, so that Mario will do things that he wouldn't do without it. So there's a reason to get it. It's Lego, so it's way too much money. I wish I had money to buy it, but I'm trying to get a new car and a PS5 instead. So I'll probably skip this one.
A new car or this Lego NES
That's
set?
true. I gotta tell Abby. Sorry, Abby, we're not buying a new car yet. I have to buy this Super Nintendo. I have to buy this Nintendo and TV Lego thing. Put it up in my office next to
She'll understand.
my Sonic Mania cartridge.
She'll understand. It's fine.
Sure.
I actually, for this particular Lego set, I could see it collecting some value over the...
Oh, I thought you were going to say collecting some dust, because, yeah, me too.
Well, yes, collecting... yeah. Well,
this is going to be a very valuable one. It's probably super limited.
It's super limited, and it's also pretty intricate. But for every Lego set I had when I was a kid, it was super nice to play. But then when you get a little bit older, it's like you build it, you play with it for a day, and you're like, now what? And so that's just what it's gonna be. Is like, no matter how intricate it can be, it's
the collectors are gonna build it and put it in a display and never touch it ever.
Exactly. And then like the reason people keep collecting these knickknacks, nothing more, nothing less, they're just knickknacks, is because it can collect value and you can sell it to some other like obsessive person and get a lot of money from it. I mean, why do people continue to buy baseball cards?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, sorry to be a little bit harsh there.
I want it, but I don't have money, so sad.
If someone gifted it to me, I would be cool.
I'd be. Yeah, hey, if any listener wants to buy it for me, just shoot me a DM and I'll give you my address.
If you ask me for Luke's address, I'll just give it to you guys.
There you go.
No, not actually. Yeah, so from there, we are going to move on to a little bit more of a heavy-handed subject. Even though we are a nerd news podcast, we do have to touch on some important subjects, and we did that last week. It is a nerdy
show that it's related to. So
yeah, and unfortunately, former MythBusters and White Rabbit Project host Grant Imihara has died at the young age of 49. According to the Hollywood Reporter, he died suddenly after a brain aneurysm, and a lot of his former co-hosts for MythBusters, they've been posting on Twitter their thoughts about his passing and the time they shared with him. And I watched MythBusters when I was younger, and it is really sad to see him having died at such a young age and so quickly.
I am sad.
I didn't watch much MythBusters or really any of it, but from after hearing that of his passing, everybody seems to be affected by this, and so clearly he was very important and very a decent person from people who knew him personally, but also just knew him on TV. He seemed to be a good guy, and it's really unfortunate to see. Well, no matter who it is. To see somebody or to know somebody that passed away, but especially somebody that everybody has such high feelings towards.
Yeah, I loved MythBusters. It's so much fun, all the random crap that they would figure out to do. And like there's so many things, like that idea is like it still lives, even though the show has been off the air for a few years, that idea still lives on because there's so many like MythBuster things you can find on YouTube for random video games. Like there's people that make a Call of Duty MythBusters series or a Mario Kart or Animal Crossing. So I like that idea of figuring out myths and if they're plausible or not is a big thing. So yeah, it's always just sad when anyone dies, just not from natural causes and at a young age, like 49, like that's younger than my parents, and I mean I think all of our parents are younger than all of them. And just like that, he had a huge chunk of his life ahead of him, especially in today's day and age where people live longer and longer. But very sad.
Yeah, it's sad to see him go, but with any tragedy, there is a sense of camaraderie for people that come together to celebrate his life. So yeah, we'll remember him fondly. And yeah, so if you guys have been have watched MythBusters or the White Rabbit Project or anything, you guys were fans of Grant, let us know in the comments below how he affected your guys' lives.
Sure. And speaking of sad news, Connor, it's time to move into the topic of the week. We'll actually introduce
such tragic news.
Horrible topic of the week.
Yes. Oh, no. So we film. We don't film, not yet. In future episodes, hopefully. Yeah, we always record on Sunday and then release our podcast the next Sunday. And but by the time the next Sunday comes, we still won't quite be at Johnny's birthday, but we'll be pretty darn close.
It's like when we did mine a month ago.
Exactly. Yeah. So Johnny, you will be
old
43, right?
Correct.
Something about
43 years old. Yep.
Yeah, and so we just went on. Where was I going with this? Sorry. Yeah, on Rocket Talk, we just want to celebrate the life and times of our good buddy. Kind of doing what we did with Luke, just a deep dive into their life and how they've been affected by media and nerd culture overall. And so, I mean, let's just jump on into it, as Philip DeFranco would say. When were you first exposed to nerd culture?
I guess there's kind of two answers to that. The first one is that I have always been involved in a lot of nerdy things. I've talked about on the show before that my first game that I ever played or that I remember playing was Frogger on the Game Boy Color. And so ever since then, I've been a big fan of video games and TV and movies. But it wasn't really until I was 19 years old that I really became that I started to identify myself as a nerdy person. Surprisingly, I don't know if I've ever told both of you guys this, but the first game that ever got me into superheroes and movies about Marvel and DC was actually Injustice, the first Injustice.
I knew that.
And I remember there was a demo for the game that came out, and my friends we were all together at my friend Hunter's house, and they were playing the demo for Injustice, and it only had Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and I remember having so much fun playing it and just beating the crap out of each other with these characters, and so I had so much fun. I played for hours with just those 3 characters, and I wanted to look into it, what is, who are the other characters that are going to be on there. And there's such a big cast, and even just the first game. So I was going down the rabbit hole of learning more about each and every character. And to give you kind of context as to how little I knew before then, I didn't even know that Bruce Wayne was the name of Batman.
Wow, turn in your nerd card now.
Yeah, I didn't if I had heard Bruce Wayne, I probably would have thought maybe Superman, or yeah, I've heard the name before, I just wouldn't know exactly who to put it. But it was the summer that I was 19, and so summer going into my sophomore year of college, and I studied everything about superheroes that entire summer. For months, I was on Wikipedia articles and news information, and just everything that you could possibly know about superheroes in DC Comics I knew about. And so it was just a weird obsession that I just started learning everything about it, and I wanted to get all of the DC movies and watch all of them. I wanted to that easily translated into easily translated into wanting to watch more Marvel movies, and so I watched every single Marvel movie up to date at that point, which I think was all of just Act 1, or what was it? Not Act 1, Phase 1 at that point, and so that's kind of what got me to, and ever since then I've been on a radio show for 2 years, and then we've been doing this podcast for already close to 6 months. So yeah, it's been a lot of I would say Injustice is what got me to really dive into being a huge nerd. But yeah.
Nice. What would you say something nerdy that makes you the most nostalgic? Like it can be a certain video game. It can be video games as a whole. A certain what's something that it just no matter what will just always bring you nostalgia of the memories that you first had with it.
I want to say sometimes I think that it would be games like Donkey Kong Country, because I played those with my grandfather when I was really, really young, and that he's what got me. He's the person that got me into those games as much as I love them. But I think I've played them so much at this point. I play them every single year, and sometimes more than once a year. That even those games they have lost nostalgia for me. But I would say maybe Super Mario World. Because I never tend to beat that one on my own. I always play it and get through maybe a world or 2 worlds, and then I just stop. But in the rare times when I would maybe every 5 years or so, when I do beat it and I get towards the end, there's certain levels that I had not seen in 5 years or longer, and the only times that I really remember playing through some of those levels in that game are when I was playing with my grandfather, and so there's a lot of funny memories that I have with particular levels. In Bowser's Castle in that world that are just a lot of fun, and I have a lot of funny callbacks to things that had happened, and so I think Super Mario World is probably the one that gives me the most nostalgia at this point.
I always love asking this question because it can be really fun with the answers. It's, what is something from your childhood that you loved that has not aged well?
Well, I talk about this often enough, but one thing that comes up a lot is, do you guys know what I'm probably going to say?
I think I do.
It's a cartoon that was on Nickelodeon in the early 2000s.
yeah. Danny Phantom.
Oh, yep, knew it.
This is the easy answer. I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about this one in particular, but one thing that I learned a few years ago, and I've been pretty harsh towards Danny Phantom since we've started this podcast, but it's not a good show. It's just not. And like I really I watched it maybe 4 years ago. I rewatched all of it, and I was really hoping it would be good. And there are some episodes that are better than others, but as a whole, it does not age well whatsoever. And yeah, I think that there's some things that are better left in our memory and never should be revisited. But in a time like this, when most of us are stuck inside and we have a lot more free time to revisit these things, I would urge you to really consider, maybe consider these things that you loved, keep them, in a good place in your heart without revisiting them. And, because not everything ages super well.
What's that phrase? Always live in the past or something like that? I don't know. But it's so funny that Danny
Not everything
Phantom,
is Crash Team Racing.
Good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Where to lie? It's so funny that Danny Phantom did not age well, yet Phil of the Future did age well, because I always found Phil of the Future.
That
Luke thinks it doesn't. I rewatched
that
it.
show. Oh, when Disney
I
Plus
loved that
launched-
show as a kid. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I'm afraid, and now I'm getting conflicting opinions.
Yeah.
Luke, Abby and I watched it when Disney Plus launched, and no, it did not age
did you
well.
watch?
We watched like 2 or 3 episodes.
Okay, because I think it's one of those shows that gets better, but like there were some episodes that weren't good. But Curtis, the caveman, like is one of the best things that happened in Phil of the Future, and there's an episode where Phil goes into the garage, and that's where Curtis lives, and so he and Curtis have to live together, and there's some interaction between the two of them that is just so funny, and really anything that Curtis does is hilarious.
The weird thing, the thing that got me was all of the how it's a live action show, but all the weird things they did with the cuts and the sound effects and all that, where like randomly it has like Hanna-Barbera era like
sound effects. Yeah.
Yes.
And because one of the episodes we watched was one of the ones with the and the one where what's the daughter's name? I forget right now.
Pim.
This is Pim, where Pim is staying at the friend's house, and the grandma's like, it's time for bed, and it's like 6:00. Like
yeah,
and like there's all the weird things like that. Yeah, no, I don't think that show aged well at all personally, but to each their own. So
yeah, it really just depends, but I there's some shows that like the live action ones I think that are easier for me to be nostalgic towards, whereas like Danny Phantom, I think I just had too high hopes of it, and it after season one is good, but that's kind of all anybody really remembers. And then I think there's 3 seasons, and seasons 2 and 3 are just garbage, absolute garbage. And
because I know after is it season 2 or season 3 they changed it where he goes back in the past and he adds the little emblem like the DP on there.
I think that's the 3rd season that he does that. But the 2nd season, I think every single episode, if I remember correctly, every single episode is a rehash of an old ghost that comes back. And so there's absolutely no new ghosts that come back in the 2nd season. It's all just like the old ones just trying something different, slightly different this time, and it never works out. There's even like the one that you're talking about, Luke, is the one with the genie. And she's in 2 episodes as well. And in the first one, she feeds on people that say "I wish" and like makes their wishes bad. But then he traps her by saying, "I wish you would go into this thermos," and then he wins. And then she comes back a second time, and then they have another problem that's slightly different. And then he says at the very end, this worked before. I don't know why you didn't think about this again. It must be because I'm a C average student. And then I wish for take the whole 20-minute episode this 4 again because he didn't think about it. And that's just kind of like the writers could have thought of some reason like she doesn't have to do every wish that you say. You can like trick her or whatever. But no, it was just as simple.
That is just plain lazy writing.
It is, yeah. And it's stuff like that that's just kind of like, okay, at the very least they made a joke about it, and they're like, maybe I would have thought of this if I wasn't a C average student. It's like, okay, but like don't blame the character if you're a shitty writer,
You know, one other thing too. At least they didn't like completely change the art style as the show went on.
Like American Dragon Jake Long.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that I remember when that happened, and I was so, as a child, I was so confused.
I remember. Yep.
I was just like, they
Literally,
can't do this.
why? Like, why do you do this?
Yeah, because they did that, and then they changed it to the Jonas Brothers instead of AJ Trouth, who was
they
Twitty
did?
from Even Stevens. Yeah. So
Wow.
the first season it was AJ Trouth. It was like his band, Marvin or Maven, and then the Jonas Brothers did the second season when they did the art style change.
I did not know that. Interesting.
This is
But yeah,
weird.
I'm sure there's some other things that I don't think have aged super well. Like, I mean, this might be a hot take, but like, there's a lot of like older games. We've talked about this before, but like Super Mario 64, as iconic as it is, there's a lot of things about it that absolutely did not age well. And hopefully, if we get that direct that may come out tomorrow, then we might have a revamped version of that that's better, but maybe not. And Ocarina of Time also, there's a lot of things about that as iconic as that game is as well. There's some things that just aren't perfect, like the battle system and the Z-Lock feature with the bad camera is just not all that great. But that's coming from a big fan, and so I feel like I have a little bit of credibility in being a Zelda fan, that I can kind of say that some games that are 20 years old are not always going to age super well.
Even if they don't age too well, are you still able to enjoy them because they bring back memories, or does it
absolutely.
just totally keep you from enjoying it?
I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure Johnny can feel the same way. There's still good things about them, but then as games like Zelda and Mario, the sequels just improved upon things so much more. As like a situation where we got with, say, Mario Odyssey, where it really perfected a lot of things. Like Mario Odyssey has probably the best camera I've ever had in like a 3D platformer. Like,
Yeah.
Agreed.
Because that was an issue that Mario 64 had. Mario Sunshine, Sonic Adventure, Tasmanian Tiger, all these games that are still good have things that weren't like got better with sequels.
It's because we didn't have anything different. We never would have known it's so terrible, because I mean, it was just, we haven't played anything yet.
Right.
True. Not every game is Crash Team Racing.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, there are some things that didn't age well in a general sense, like Ocarina of Time or Super Mario 64. Then there's things that didn't age well to me personally, and that's Danny Phantom or Phil the Future for Luke.
True.
But I think that there's definitely a difference in being able to say, like, if I liked it as a kid, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to like it as an adult. But on the other side, if I liked it as a kid, even though I can still point out things that I did that I think most people wouldn't like as an adult, I still do because I'm just a fan. And, yeah, that's how it goes.
All right, Johnny, the next question I have for you would be, what's a nerdy sector you wish you were able to get into?
Let's see. I wish there's a few. One that I like. One is comic books. I never had really, even during my like rabbit hole superhero learning about everything phase, I never really got into comic books. There were a few that I read that were new. Like I knew right away that Nightwing was like my favorite guy, and so I wanted to like read some of those. But overall, I have never really been a comic books guy because it's kind of something that most people grow up with as kids. And so, yeah, that's one that I kind of wish that I had more information in, or more, like more experience in. Another one is being more tech savvy. I am very, very not at all. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't need. I'm not very picky when it comes to like having a new laptop or the highest end technology, and because of that, I'm very behind when it comes to not knowing what a lot of the newer stuff even is. So, yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, comic books, they can get really deep into the lore of, whatever it is you're reading. And I have not read a lot of them. And I really, really wish I had the interest to read more about, blankety blank here. And then, like, you could, like, really get some serious nerd cred with comic books. But, I mean, comic books have been a dying medium for a very long time. They actually kind of fluctuate in popularity. They'll go up, like, a lot in 1 month, but that's still nothing compared to, like, the 80s and 90s and such, but like if you're watching most of the TV shows and the movies, then you're pretty much caught up with the majority of the fan base of, you know, Nightwing or
well,
insert.
there's just so much. Like,
Yes.
and honestly, someone made a joke that the X-Men film series is actually the best representation of comic book films because it's a convoluted mess like actual comic books are, which made me laugh. But yeah, like to get into it, there's so much stuff because of all the multiverse things. There's just a lot that if you want to get into it, you have to like basically go to certain sections. Like if you want to get into Hulk, like there's so much that you have to like dig through to figure out what Hulk you want type of. It's not just like you like Batman? Okay, you can either watch the more campy 60s Batman or you can watch the more dark Dark Knight trilogy, and like it's easier to consume the movies or TV shows compared to comic books.
Yeah, and I've always been the kind of person that, like, if I'm going to collect something, I need to be able to collect something that has, like, an end or, like, a completed, like I've been able to collect everything, and it just seems impossible to do that with comic books. So that's another thing that kind of, like, deterred me from ever wanting to get started, was just that there would be virtually no end in sight.
If you do desire at any point to get started, I would just recommend getting independent titles away from superheroes, because the superhero ones, you'll never, I know you have the power to freeze time, but you will never ever get caught up with superheroes. But if you go like in more
Sonic.
independent, maybe Sonic, yeah, if you want to go a more independent route, that you could get into and really could it could command your attention in a way that the movies haven't, because you've never heard of such and such titles.
Yeah. And that is probably, you know, a good way to go. But I also think that maybe you underestimate my powers of freezing time. So
I would love to be proven
Especially
wrong.
right now.
Exactly. And this next question actually does still tie in. What's been the hardest nerd culture to get into? One that you haven't crossed the threshold just yet, or one that you are now a big fan of or a mass consumer of, but it took a while for you to get there?
That's tough. I want to say Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I want to say, yeah, like D&D stuff as a whole. Like, I'm kind of like teaching myself a lot of it, and it's something that's really cool. Like, it's something that I didn't even really appreciate or know existed. Nobody really did, and I've always been somebody that likes to write stories, and so being able to do that, but with like a group of friends, has always been something that's really cool. Yeah, I would probably say that, because that's kind of that's the kind of participation that's not passive. You can't just, you know, watch a show or watch a movie, or even reading a book is even a little passive, because it's just something you can just kind of do to enjoy. But this is something that's a little bit of work. Mm-hmm. And but I mean, you put a little into it and you get a lot out of it. So it's something that like you really. Yeah, I don't know. It's something that's less passive, but I think more of an outcome, more of a positive gain than you can get really from any other kind of nerdy medium. So,
and remaining there, I would imagine this, if you were to recommend any nerd sector to get into, I'm guessing Dungeons and Dragons is what you would go with for that person. But I mean, I could be wrong. What would be the nerd sector your number one recommendation for people to get into?
I mean, well, it's hard to say, because I love movies and TV. So, like, for me, but I can't recommend that, because it's like everybody watches movies and TV, just not to my level. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of hard, because it's like nobody in any sector, whether it's video games or comic books or D&D or puzzles or whatever, there has to already be some kind of interest or intrigue in whatever the sector is, for you to really, for somebody to come and say, oh, hey, this is why I like it, and here's what you can do to know more. But short of somebody like unless somebody says, "Oh, I have an interest in D&D," I'm not going to run up to them and be like, "You have to play with me," you know. So, and that's the same with like anything, with like comic books. Like if I gave somebody no hint that I had any interest in comic books one way or another, and somebody was like, "I really want you to start this hobby," I'd be like, "Why? What gave it away that I had any interest in this at all?" So, I think that. Maybe I think I already forgot what your question was.
I guess like what if someone wanted to become more of a geek? What sector would you recommend first?
Well, I guess to answer that, I would say I'd want to know what they want to be more interested in, and then I would help them to do that in the easiest way. So if they wanted to know more about comic books, then I would say, well, like you said, I would say, well, let's start with something independent rather than, superheroes, because I think liking Marvel or DC comics is not the same as liking comic books, if that makes sense. Like,
sure, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, like if you like DC, that translates easy to DC Comics. But if you like comic books in general, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to like DC Comics or Marvel Comics. So, so then I would say probably go more independent. If you like, are interested in, like if you are interested in D&D, then I would say, well, what questions do you have, and I can answer anything for you. If you're interested in buying a PlayStation 5 when it comes out and you've never owned a system in your life, then I would say, well, what kind of movies are you interested in, and maybe we can find a video game that kind of is in that genre. So it really depends on what the person would be looking for in general, and I'd be very happy to help said person figure out what would be best based on their tastes. But I wouldn't ever just try to throw one of my interests on them without, So.
Well, that's good. That's a great answer. You're going to try to tailor it to their own, to their own interests, which is, the best way to go about it. You don't just ask strangers.
Well, because as much as the world would benefit from being from everybody being exactly like me, I think that it would be probably a little bit more. It'd be good to have diversity,
No.
You're right. Everyone should just be exactly like me.
Sure.
All right. I'm going to agree to disagree there. But move on to the next question for you, Johnny. What are some games or TV shows that you still haven't crossed off your bucket list that's like one that's close there? Like whether it's like what's one that if you had the money or for a TV show, the time, what would be your next big thing you want to cross off the bucket list that you haven't yet?
Let's see. Well, as far as video games go, there's not really a lot. I pretty much grew up with everything that I had is everything that I wanted. And that wasn't to say that I got everything I wanted. It was more that everything I had is all that I ever wanted. And so like, there's not a lot that I go back and I think like, oh, I never got the time to experience this kind of game. There's not a lot of cases like that.
But have you played Sonic R?
No, I have not.
There you go. That should be the top of your bucket list there.
But I don't exactly have any interest in playing Sonic R, so
why not?
That's where you're wrong.
Well, actually, I will say that the one N64 game I've never played that I would have an interest in playing is Paper Mario for the 64. I've never played it, and everyone says that while it's just almost as good as the Thousand Year Door, anything that is that close to being as good is something that I have to check out, and I just have never had the opportunity to do so. So that's one game, and then anything else would be stuff that's come out in the last 5 years on a non-Nintendo system that I just had no ability of buying, and also have no real, like, it's not really a loss that I wasn't able to pick it up. Like there was that game about the two prisoners that escaped from prison, A Way Out, I think is what it was called. Yeah. And it was a co-op game, and that looked like a lot of fun. I think it was on both Xbox and PlayStation. But yeah, it was a full co-op game, and you escape from prison, and then you escape the law when they're coming after you for escaping prison, and it just looked like a really cool game. But that's one of like dozens of newer games that looked cool, but I never really had the ability to pick it up. But yeah, I would say maybe for games, Paper Mario 64 is the only one. As far as TV shows, Ooh, there's so many shows that I watch that there's been a few times in the past few years when I watch a show and then forgot that I'd already seen it, and so I don't know. I mean, I do already have a list of like shows that are on my kind of like I must watch list, but with COVID speeding up my superpowers even more, I kind of it's kind of made it's made it even easier to get through it. Some of the ones that a lot of people recommend to me are Mr. Robot. I have a friend in Mexico that recommended that show to me. The main character is the same actor who played
Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury, yeah.
Rami
Dated my
Malek.
cousin a few years ago.
What's that?
He dated my cousin
Really?
Wait, what?
years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Holy
before
crap.
he got big. Yeah, because my cousin is trying to make it as an actress as well. So
Huh.
like this was like before. This would have been like after the Pacific, in the middle of the Night Museum stuff. But before he was in Mr. Robot or Bohemian Rhapsody. So like people would have known who he was, but it like wasn't like
Did you ever meet him?
no.
Oh.
I can't believe I'm just now hearing news
Yeah,
like this.
that's
Holy
crazy.
cow. Well, I
dude,
guess
my
we could probably go deeper with that on a different episode, but for now we'll just keep it with Johnny.
Yeah, I don't I don't mean to, downplay the importance of Luke almost being related to a famous person, but
I guess we'll just stick with Johnny.
I
this
guess
time.
we'll just talk about me for a little bit instead.
True.
So this is going to be, I mean, there's going to be no simple answer to this, but I do want to hear your take on this. There are some people that believe that video games are not necessary for the development of a child. And due to not only your experience with video games, but your current profession, I was wondering what would you say to someone who believes that video games are not necessary for the development of a child?
They're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that they're wrong. I think that there needs to be I think there needs to be a way to control it, because as big of fans as all three of us are of games, I don't think any of us have an unhealthy video game habit. Now, as far as TV watching, for me, that's a different story. But for video games particularly, I don't think any of the three of us have a bad habit of being addicted to them.
Well, for TV shows, you didn't choose the superpower. The superpower chose you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So it's not an unhealthy habit.
Yeah, but yeah, for video games, I think that the worst thing that parents usually go to is the screens and the effect that they have on our eyes, and I totally agree with that. I mean, I think that there's definitely an impact that can have on vision, but I don't think that I don't think video games make you violent, and I think that they're definitely a learning tool. A lot of the older games before there was voice acting was frequent, there was a lot of text, and that helped me read a lot. Because everything that on a video game, when people would talk to each other, there would be text there, and that would be a lot of constant reading. And it's not like it's a book, and I'm not saying it's any replacement for a book, but with how few people read, how few kids do read, and I mean, myself, I also don't read very much now as an adult, that at least there's some kind of form of text that they can read and practice from, and I think that that's definitely helpful. Not only that, but I mean, video games in our past, and definitely even more so, video games now are very good at being story-based and have character development and a lot of heart. And so a lot of the characters can react to things that players like
Like
children,
how a real person react to things.
yeah, like children may actually genuinely react they'd get to watch the characters reacting to certain situations and that they would have never experienced. And I think that there's a lot of eye-opening situations that can help them see different kinds of viewpoints that they can learn from video games.
Yeah, well, another one just to think about too is there's so many things that with video games that you can do that can almost be a replacement or something that can like another way to do it compared to how it is with like something more tangible. A good one is Minecraft compared to Legos. Minecraft is basically virtual Legos with survival elements. Like as much as I like to dog on Minecraft as well, like what it has done for kids to let them let their creative side out, just like what we would have done when we were the same age with Legos. Like that's huge. And then another one on top of that is the communication aspects you get from it. I have friends that I met through online video game, like Zach and Ryan, who were on the Last of Us mini. I met both of those through like online. I met Ryan through Tumblr, and I met Zach through a Facebook group, and I play video games with them. My other friend, I met Nick, who I played Call of Duty with. I've met in person. So like it's one of those that like I made friends through video games that I eventually met, or I got a stronger friendship with people that I knew in real life, like Blake or my friend Brandon, because we played video games together. And so like there's such a thing like that it can, there are concerns with screen time, but that same issue with TV and movies. So if you're gonna and phones and tablets, so if you're gonna get mad that your kid is playing too much Fortnite, well, also like don't be sitting there watching the news all day either. Like you should be doing those things as well to those parents that are doing that, because like they're just like any other media. There are like you have to watch what your kids are doing, because it is easy for a kid to rack up money on your credit card on Fortnite if you're not careful, or for a kid at a younger impressionable age to see things that are a little more out there in a violent game like Grand Theft Auto, The Last of Us, Call of Duty. Like as great as those games are, those games are not for children.
Exactly.
On that topic, I will say that I learned at like 5 or 6 years old, I learned more about things than I should have from Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Oh, God.
Like, I didn't know that sunflowers had breasts, and that you could bounce on them for money. Like, I had no idea. But they
by
do.
5 or 6, you should know that. Like, it's embarrassing, Johnny.
And there's exceptions to things like that too. Like they're just like video games are always the scapegoat for shootings and violence and all this. Just like every other form of media, there's bad movies, TV shows, books, all that. Just there's bad video games for I think like a Conquer is just like South Park, like or Family Guy, The Simpsons, these cartoons that like before these were popular, people didn't realize, oh, this is just a kid's game, well, that's fun, and then like it's vulgar, like. It's just that's how things are, and
they need to stick with something family friendly, like Happy Tree Friends or something like that.
Right, exactly. And when I lost my, I don't know what I was going to say.
Well, let me give you something here. Decision making. I think video games, while it's very subtle, like video games like Call of Duty, they're definitely for teenagers. But if you you can still learn a lot from like quick decision making and stuff like that. And people say it actually helps develop those skills.
Yeah, problem
and teamwork.
It's
teamwork
just like
well.
an interactive. It's just like an interactive book or an interactive television show. You can learn a lot through video games. And there's like Mr. Rogers fought for to keep to not have the government slashed the funding of television shows. I think Mr. Rogers, because he said you can learn a lot through programs like his. There are video games out there that are built to help kids develop, and I don't understand why people like they'll understand that there is a bad rep with some fan bases, and then all of a sudden all video games are just canceled in their household.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
the way I see it is that it's like this might be a hot take for parents, and I don't have kids, so maybe that's why it's easier for me to say this. But I think that while books can provide a lot, they can provide, you can be a more fluent reader. You can learn a lot about creativity. You can learn about human emotion through words, but you can't learn about teamwork or socialization through books. Whereas video games, there's a lot of things that video games can't provide to you that books can, or not as well as some books can. But video games can give you teamwork. They can give you, they can give you the same aspects that movie scenes can give you through some of their animations. But the socialization aspect, like Luke said, he has friends, some that he's met, some that he hasn't, that he's close friends with through video games. And it's like, that makes perfect sense, because you can't just be a well-rounded kid and become eventually a well-rounded adult if you're stuck in your room reading all day. Like, and that's not to say don't read, because obviously I think you should, but I think that it's good that we put those two on kind of the same level, because now that's considering if you have an interest in video games, of course, but you know, I think that there's a lot of things that are more you know, typically taught in schools, like reading or homework, that is very important to you for a plethora of reasons. But then if you also have these interests that are things that are good for you and you also enjoy, whether that is, you know, video games, or if it's like playing Minecraft and being creative in that way, or whatever, you know, it may have some downsides to it, like screen time and you know, effect on your eyesight, but I think that there's a lot of ways to go around that with today's technology, with glasses and all the things that you're getting from it, like the socialization aspect, that, you know, I just think that it's definitely good to have, you know, to be a well-rounded child growing up and have a lot more options of, especially if there's things that are good for you that you enjoy. So
well, it's like that's a great way of putting it. It's an option out there that you don't necessarily have to take. Sorry to cut you off, Luke. What were you going to say?
Like we said too, like some of the things with like screen time is not only in video games, and that's the thing that people, well, even reading, because of Kindles and how like those are prevalent now. Kindles and tablets to read, like that's still screen time.
Yeah, I mean, this is technically screen time. The viewers can't, or the listeners can't see us, but we use Facebook Messenger, the video, to see each other, and
just like we're looking at computer screens, like there's like you. The whole thing, and in education these days, it's a lot of stuff with computers now. Like it's all the screen time of video games. It's bad for the early development of a child, but like when like an elementary age kid is gonna, if you can't play this video game, well, they're still gonna get screen time at school. They're still gonna get screen time at home from things that aren't video games, and so you can use those to help you. I mean, I love Portal 2. I talk about that game a lot. And Valve even used a Teach with Portals, part of their Steam for School thing. So, like, there were some, I could not tell you where they were used at, but there were some different schools that would use Portal 2 for the puzzle solving, and even with the physics, to like as a lesson to talk about physics and science. And you know, there's other games that have been done with that, and so you can use something like a video game to aid education, and or just like all the things we've said. Basically, like I get really upset with that topic. Basically,
when you talked about Portal in schools, that reminded me of something that I don't know if this was how it was for you guys in your health class growing up, but my health teacher showed us episodes of Degrassi, and which, yes, it's a great show, but
that's the same thing, basically.
It's
very lazy. It's to show Degrassi instead of doing it and like at least with Portal, like you're doing problem solving. Like and I love Degrassi, but yeah, there's so much stuff.
I remember, I mean, I was in my health class, and I would just, she'd pull up a TV, and she's like, we're going to watch this episode of Degrassi to talk about, male puberty or whatever. And it's like, what did JT go through today? And it's like, we're just sitting here watching an episode, which, don't get me wrong, I'm loving. But, I don't feel like it's in the right spot for it, it felt like it was more of a lazy end on the teacher than it was on us.
It shows multiple things. It shows that television can be educational, although you have to choose the right television, and it shows that teachers can be lazy that way. But I don't know if you guys saw or read Ready Player One. I read it, and I also saw the movie. And that was taking place in the near future. I mean, it was distant future, but it's technically near because it wasn't thousands of years advanced. Teachers were using virtual reality in their classrooms. And
and that's the thing that's just going to keep growing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And with the new generation, like millennials, as they become parents, they're going to be able to give a better control on video game usage than, Gen X and baby boomer parents. Although, I mean, you can still learn a lot from that generation. But with video games, we are the generation that really, really saw the boom of technology with video games. And now we are also going to be the ones to introduce the next generation with educational tools using video games.
Yeah, because think about it. The oldest millennial was born in '81, so they would have been about 4 years old when the NES came out. So, like basically, when the video game market rebuilt itself when Nintendo came in, that age group up until like Connor and I are some of the cutoffs. Like '96 is the cutoff, so a little younger than Connor and I. Is like when you see it. So yeah, like that whole age group. But yeah, this is definitely a topic that we could do a whole thing on as a topic of the week.
Yeah, we might
well.
we might do that because this is a lot more we can dive into with this. But
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, we could probably make this an entire mini.
Oh,
if
for
we
sure.
wanted to,
We definitely
easily.
could.
yeah.
And we'd hit on some of the same things we talked about on this one, but there's a lot more we could bring up. But we can move on to the next question for Johnny, though, on his centric episode, since it's not a video game development episode. But in a way, I guess this question is in video game development, just in a different way of development. If you were able to help produce a game, what kind of game would it be and why? So what's you're making a game, whatever studio calls you up, hey, Johnny, we're going to help you. We're going to add you on as a creative director for this game. I have an idea of what it might be, but what would yours be?
Okay, I've thought about this for years, so I have exactly how I would want it. So I don't know if you, Luke, or you, Connor, have either played Donkey Kong 64 before. Have you?
No.
Okay.
Briefly, not long enough to say yes.
Okay. Well, Shiro's wanting to contribute as well. Okay, so basically it's you play as 5 different characters. You start off as DK, and then you save the other 4. Then you save one and they save each other. And then you have 5 playable characters. And each one takes on 20% of the game. So there's certain things that only one person can collect. And some people hate that feature because it's like you can run through a golden banana as like Tiny Kong, but because it's only supposed to be picked up by Diddy. And some people are like, well, if I can touch it as somebody else, then I should be able to pick it up as whoever. That's, debatable. Some people hate it. I kind of like that feature because it's like it makes everybody equally, important. So I really want to implement that feature, but kind of twist it a little bit. And so at the very beginning, it's going to be a story, like an introduction kind of an intro cinematic story, and you get to choose one of 5 characters that you want to be. And it'll say like, Johnny, Connor, Luke, Court, and Corey. So each character will have a different power, and each character will have a different world that they start in. And then you go along, and there's the 5 worlds. And if you select maybe Johnny, then it starts in world 1. If you select Connor, you start in world 2, and then you just go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 back to 1, depending on whatever you start in. And each one that you beat is completely different. You can start the game in a first world being completely different from somebody else who chose a different power, and everybody else has an equal amount of stuff to collect, depending on whoever you choose. So maybe in Connor's world, there's 20 things to collect for you, but everybody else collects 10, whereas the next one is Luke's world, and he has 20 things to collect, but everybody else has 10. And so everybody has their own kind of designated world, and everybody in your own world has 20 of this thing, whereas everybody else, the other 4 players, have 10, and then you move on to the next one in the line, and then when you beat them all, then you go into a secret 6th world, and that's where they all team up together and they beat the big bad.
Wow, you really did think this through. Who would who would write the score for it?
Who do you think would write the score for it?
Grant Kirkhope. Lust.
Yes.
I was surprised. I was actually
Father Great.
I was expecting a Banjo 3, but I mean,
yes.
But,
No. You already showed us your video game. You have you can't touch Banjo anymore.
Yep. Well, I mean, Johnny
does not love Banjo enough to create a video game with him.
I think I said Sonic Adventure 3 on mine. So.
Well, I'm
so disappointed in your answer, John.
I've thought about this a lot, and I don't think that that if we ever get a Banjo 3, it's ever going to be as good as the first 2. And if it is, great. But if it's not, then I mean, I shouldn't be nobody's going to come to me to design it. So the best I can do is design a game that I want to see, that I know is going to be good, or at least to me is going to be good. So yeah, that's kind of like, I want something that has choices where even if the game is exactly the same, the order you do everything is different depending on who you choose, and each character is completely different. So maybe there's somebody with fire powers, and there's somebody that can fly, and there's somebody that is super strong. I don't know, but it's just it'd be a platformer for sure. Obviously, it'd be a platformer game. It'd be collectathon, but it'd be definitely you have more than one option, because the ability to play as the 5 different Kongs in DK64 is like the only time I've ever seen a gameplay implemented like that, and I don't get why, because it's such a cool concept, but. Like, even in the new Crash game, like, you can play as Crash and Coco, and I think you can
and Cortex.
play as... Yeah, and I think you can play as either of them. I'm not sure if there's designated levels between them, or if it's, like, you can just switch between them whenever you want. But even in a game that's really cool like that, like, there's nothing where it doesn't seem like... there's 50% Crash, 50% Coco. It's like...
Yeah, because Coco's been playable in a few others before. In Wrath of Cortex, she's playable in a handful of levels, and then some vehicle levels. And then Crash 3, she's playable in some of the vehicle levels. But yeah, it's not one where there's 30 levels perfect. And 15 are Crash, 15 are Coco.
Yeah, and that's like, and I like the idea of an open world. Like a very open world where anybody can pretty much go anywhere, and there might be little pockets where certain characters can only access because of their abilities, but like, it's pretty much entirely open to everybody, and you just explore the world as all 5 characters. So that'd be something that I would really like to see. And I'm kind of a big fan of backtracking in platformers. I know a lot of people hate that, but I'm a big fan if you do it right. Especially with like the ability to unlock a new character, and then you have to like backtrack as that character from all the worlds that you've been to before. So that'd be something like in DK64, Chunky Kong is the last one you collect, and you get him in the 3rd world. And so when you get him at the 3rd world, everybody else is super powered up from 2 worlds before that, and he comes out and he has nothing, and so he's broke. He has no coins. You have to go get him coins to buy moves, and then you have to go redo the 1st world and redo the 2nd world. And I really like that concept, but not everybody did. So.
I love your answer, and I think this could also easily be a mini where we design our own. We theoretically, hypothetically, design our own hypothetical game. And this next question actually ties in very, very well. What does the perfect video game look like? Which is kind of a vague question, but it's not necessarily what do you think is made currently that is the perfect video game, because we all know it's going to be Banjo. But
Crash Team Racing?
I don't know why I keep saying Crash Team Racing.
It's my turn, Luke.
Clearly
you had
an incorrect answer. But what, in your eyes, is the formula to help make a perfect game, and or what are the aspects of certain games that conglomerated into a perfect video game, if I'm making any sense whatsoever?
A lot of it would have to do with how I explained before what I would want to make. Obviously it'd have to be a platformer. It'd have to be multiple characters. I think 5 is a really good number, and an equal percentage of collecting stuff between each of the characters. I think that gives an opportunity to have everybody kind of like have their own favorite and have somebody that like they really like, and then it also gives everybody the opportunity to play as everybody that they like may not like as much, but just test everybody out. And it'd have to be a platformer, 3D platformer, and just a lot of colorful worlds. I mean, and no grass worlds. I'm sick and tired of grass worlds.
Ooh.
Yeah, hot take.
Literally,
but like,
why?
Because if you get to choose between, like, the way that I have this, my perfect video game would be you get to choose which world would be number 1, and because of that, there could be, the first one could be spooky, or it could be lava, or it could be a cave, or underground, or the sky, whatever. But
you can't start off with spooky.
Yes, you can.
Spooky has to. You have to gradually go into spooky. You start off with grass.
Like in platformer, the unofficial rule is don't start with an ice level, and then Crash Bandicoot at the Cortex is like, hey yo, here's an ice level.
Starting off with an ice level.
So, I mean, it can
Usually
happen.
it's like
Actually,
it's
the music
usually
from
like-
that level is dope too.
That's probably one of the only good levels. That's like one of the few levels in the game that's like worth playing to. It's a solid level, but like they start with an ice level, and everyone's always just like, why? Where's the grass level or
the order?
medieval?
The order is always like grass is 1, grass is 1, and then desert is 2, and then spooky is somewhere towards the end. Sky is always like either the last or maybe second to last. And then there's like usually like a candy or a silly world like halfway in the middle. I really want a candy world. Those are always fun.
What I've noticed about you and your love of media is you have this fascination with the elements that a lot of us don't, although we all love the elements. But like you really love the idea of incorporating the elements in the media that you love. What if you could bend one of the 4 elements? What would it be? I already know, but our listeners need to know.
Oh, when you said, I thought you were talking about like I was confused about your wording, but okay, like the 4 designated elements. I mean, water is my favorite, but for sure. But I think that knowing my personality, I think I'm more of an earth than a water.
What makes you say that?
Bloodbender.
Bloodbender. Oh, that was such a great episode.
But I just think that I'm more I don't know. I think I'm just I don't know how to describe it, but I'm an earthbender that wants to be a waterbender.
Yeah, that's the thing is like with a lot of these people, like a lot of people who take what element are you? There's the difference between what element are you and what element do you desire. For me,
Yeah.
I would like to be an earthbender, but my personality, or excuse me, I would like to be an airbender. I don't know why I said earth. I'd like to be an airbender, but I know my personality probably matches fire more.
Okay, yeah. What about you, Luke? Just out of curiosity, have you ever thought about this?
Abby always says I'd be an earthbender.
I can see that.
It'd be fun to be a firebender, but yeah, I think I'd be an earthy boy.
See,
When you said
being a firebender, but I don't want to have to kill innocent people and take over the world. I don't want to.
Well,
have
there
to
were
do
good firebenders. Uncle Iroh is the
that.
best.
Yeah, he's the best.
Connor, when you said earlier elements, I thought you meant like elements of like worlds in video games, like the spooky one or the lava one.
Well, it helps if I'm not specific. If I'm really,
Yes,
really
exactly.
vague about it, then I can get the answers I want.
Exactly.
So, with we talk about video games a lot on this podcast because I mean there's just a lot to talk about. But let's go to TV shows. The TV shows you grew up with. What have been the most influential TV shows in your love of media?
Oh, that's really tough. That's like when people ask me what my favorite movie is, I'm like, that's not a question that I can
favorites
answer.
are hard, but like what really influenced you growing up? And also why, if you can expand on that, why?
It's hard to say. Like, I watched a lot of Nick, Disney, and Cartoon Network growing up as a kid, and so I have a lot of like all of the classic TV shows from all 3 of those channels. But what I watch mostly now are dramas, and I think one of the first dramas I ever really got into was when Cartoon Network was dabbling in non-cartoon shows. They had a 1-season show called Unnatural History, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. But it was a teen, not a teen drama, but it was like because that makes it sound like Degrassi, but like it was a more dramatic show about like historical artifacts, because there was they went to a high school, and the high school was conveniently also a museum on one wing, and because of course it was, and so, yeah, every episode was like somebody trying to steal some ancient artifact in the history museum, and then they, tried to rescue it. And anyway, it was a good show, and it's one of the shows that when I grew up with it, it was like I think that's kind of what gave me my love for dramas as much as I do. So that's one. Another. Oh, I don't know. I just watch so many different kinds of shows. I don't know. That's a tough question.
So if you were to in the writing room, if you wanted to be in the writing room for a TV show, I imagine it would probably be a drama.
Yeah, for sure. Like some kind of like 40 minutes.
Degrassi, the next generation.
That would be great.
And not that kind of drama. Not that like I think that's kind of a standalone exception. Like I think Degrassi is kind of its own world in terms of like how good it can be, because it's high school soap opera, which has like never really been a thing before. But no, I would say something more like adults, but like a 40-minute episode time limit. But I don't know what it would be about really. I just know that it would be something that would be like I mean, I'm a big fan of The Fosters. I'm a big fan of This Is Us and Parenthood. And so shows like that are all about like family and have like 10 characters in the family that are all have like very distinct personalities and all have very like, it's an ensemble cast. So, one character might be primary here, but the next episode they might have 2 lines. I think that like that kind of thing is like ensemble casts are like the best. For sure.
So if and when you are writing, and I know you haven't done too much writing, but you've done some, or when you think about like maybe writing a script in your head, do you find yourself casting the main character mostly as yourself, like an extreme version of yourself, or like a more I don't know how to describe, but like having elements of yourself as the main character, or would you like elements of yourself to be more of an ensemble cast member?
Well, like I said, like I do like ensemble casts. So, but there are some times when I would, I think there's always a character that I write that's me, but I never make that character the one and only main character. I'm a big fan of teams or like I said, ensembles. So, like if there's a show that doesn't have the character's name in the title, then I'm probably a big fan. Especially if there's a team aspect to it. So, I think that it's very important to have like a cast of characters that's all equally important to one another. And it's not very often that you see that. And so that's something that I would definitely want to write, is something that has, I even talk about how like FOMO is a thing, but for me, I get the opposite of FOMO, which is like I love when people like when I'm a part of something, but people are able to continue doing it without me being there. Like last week, I was sick, and I didn't have to worry about you guys like not being able to do stuff when I wasn't there, and so I really like that, because it's kind of like it gives me the sense of like even though everything that I do is in my own life and it technically does revolve around me, not everything that I'm a part of is about me only, and it's really nice that things can go on even when I'm not there. So that's the kind of like idea that I have towards TV and movie as well, something I want to see a lot more of.
I just thought of a random question that was really good, but doesn't really necessarily relate to this. But it's too good not to ask. What is Banjo's go-to Taco Bell meal?
Well, he loves honey, so...
Oh, okay, yeah, that narrows it down.
I don't know if there's really anything that he would like. I mean, probably the cardboard cinnamon twists that they have. Sugary cardboard, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
I that's probably the closest thing, but I don't know. Probably that.
So, what is it about the quesarito that gives life to this world, that has the living water within it, as they say in biblical terms?
It's just good, man. It's just great.
I don't know, man. Speaking of the quesarito, it wasn't really nerd news to it. Johnny, did you hear the news about the quesarito?
I did. And as of yesterday, I checked, but it's still there as of yesterday.
I have not heard the news about the quesarito. What is this?
Taco Bell is getting rid of a bunch of items over the next couple months.
Pretty much everything I ever order is getting
they're removing the grilled steak soft taco, the 7-layer burrito, nacho supreme, beefy 5-layer burrito, spicy tostada, the Fritos burrito, triple layer nachos, spicy potato soft taco, cheesy fiesta potatoes, loaded grillers, and the mini skillet bowl from the breakfast menu, and then the quesarito as well.
That's disgusting. I'm looking it up right now, and as of 7 hours ago, on Fox News, one of the most reliable sources of news, Taco Bell, quesarito to live on, despite rumors of the contrary. And I'm sure you can hear that, but am I able to pause it? Yes, there we go. A spokesperson.
So it will be off. Yeah, I just pulled this up too. So the quesarito is going to be off the restaurant menu, but you can still order it. It, so you can order it via Taco Bell's website or the app. So you have to order on an app to get it, but you cannot go in the store and say, "Can I get a quesarito?" And
well, that is the absolute worst.
So it's going to be a secret menu thing, like it was before it was an actual thing, because it technically was a secret menu for a long time.
I don't know when we're gonna get.
All right, so I'm not as sad about that now because quesarito is quite tasty. I am very sad about the Fritos burrito though. That was always my go-to.
The beefy Fritos burrito.
That was always my go-to cheap.
Yeah, for the $1 menu. Yeah, it's just perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Well, I think ending on Taco Bell is a perfect way to end Johnny because as those know, Johnny does love Taco Bell. So.
I do.
So I guess that can move us into the recommendations. Which Johnny, it was your turn last time. Why don't you talk to us about that?
So yeah, mine was The Magicians, and it was episode 1, and it's now that I'm thinking about it, even though it was what you just asked me recently, this is one of my favorite shows of all time. And actually, Quentin Coldwater, the main character, is a character that I very much relate to in a lot of ways, especially like later on in some of the later seasons. So, like, tell me what you guys thought. Like,
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, I liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. There's I mean, I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and it's a school for magicians, so there was a lot of overlap with it. That being said, there's still plenty of originality with it. I love the way that the episode ended. I think the writing is a little cheesy and the effects are not very good, but it's also a pilot episode, so obviously it's going to get better as time goes on. But for a pilot episode, I had a good time with it. It was very enjoyable.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was hooked. Pilot episodes are always a hard thing. Like, one of the few pilot episodes I can really think of that I watched it and I was just like, oh my gosh, I want to keep going, is Lost. That's like one of the few times where, like, I think a pilot episode really got you. Ozark had a good pilot and a few other shows, but like the pilots are made usually months before a show. It's enjoyable. I didn't grow up with Harry Potter. I watched Harry Potter when I was a young adult. But yeah, it's enjoyable. The writing at times is a little cheesy. I don't know if I'll go out and keep watching much more, because I found my TV does have a 24/7 Degrassi channel. So I mean, it's not Degrassi. So
is that all you've been doing, is watching Degrassi?
No. But there's a few times these last couple weeks that Abby and I have been doing that.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'll probably maybe watch a few more episodes. I just have an issue with TV shows that I start and don't finish. I did that when one of the first times we had Netflix. I did that with Justice League. I did that with I'll restart Arrested Development or Lost so many times and then get halfway through and then stop. And there's a bunch of other random shows that I'll watch a few episodes and then just not continue.
Mm-hmm. What's the name of the big villain that's towards the end with the moths flying around his head?
I don't remember. I didn't rewatch it with you guys, so I don't remember.
Wow.
Well, either way, that classroom scene when he walks in and everyone's frozen, I thought that was really cool. I thought when he had to kind of perform this quote unquote audition in front of the dean, I thought that was, the writing could have been better with the dean. He stopped him about half of 1 second into his audition, and he was just like, stop wasting my time. I was like, whoa, that was so random, and you gave him absolutely zero time whatsoever to perform any magic whatsoever. And I thought, you could have eased that in a little bit more. But I mean, still, like the characters that it set up, and the villain that it established in the first episode, it was entertaining. I enjoyed the entire episode.
I'll say that this show was so good to me that it actually inspired me to get the first book that I'd bought in a long time that the show was based off. Actually, I was with Luke. We went to a bookstore last year at some point, and I bought the Magician's book. And
are you okay? Blink twice if someone was holding a gun to your head. Oh my God! Whoa. So you not only watched that episode, you learned how to read because of this episode.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because of the Magicians, I was inspired to learn how to read, and I don't want to sound like everybody else that says the book was better, but because I do love the TV show, but there's a lot of things that are in the book that obviously didn't make it into the show, and that there's a lot of cool stuff that happened in both the TV show and the book, and I think that they're both equally, impressive. So
here's a quick tangent debate for another day, though. The idea of making a book into a movie, as good as it is, Abby and I have talked about this a lot. It's better to do a TV show because books are so long that you can expand things out so much more, and you could over a whole season do a whole book instead of having to cut, because you can basically do an entire book in a season if you get enough production.
The budget issues is like Harry Potter's budget, because it has such a big budget. The effects last longer, but if you do a TV show, I know exactly what
Harry Potter, it would need, they would almost need to do a reboot where they can do that, but people get pretty mad about that. I'm just saying, in general, though, some of your bigger, super
blockbusters kind of things.
No, it's not really sci-fi, but like in a way, science fiction with Harry Potter, with fantasy and science fiction with stuff like that. Yeah, some stuff it's better for movie because of the budget, but at the same time, a book would translate better to a TV show. Same with a video game. That's
Agreed.
The Last of Us going to be a miniseries on HBO instead of a movie could help that be better, because they have more time to let things develop instead of trying to condense a 15-hour game into a 2-hour movie.
Agreed. I'm throwing this out, and I don't know what you guys would think. I imagine there's going to be plenty of people saying no. We could normalize 3-hour movies.
Yeah, maybe
as an addition,
because that did help the Lord of the Rings, but there's still things that got cut from that. So each thing's different, but more should look at adopting, especially after how successful Game of Thrones was, even with the last season being divisive for fans. But with that, that could be with how successful that is with the Magicians, some of these other ones. Maybe look into doing a show instead. So
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I've thought about that for years. I love TV shows because you can get more out of it than you can a movie. And even in it would take the longest movie and the shortest TV. It would take the longest kind of movie, which is 3 or maybe even 3.5 hours, to be longer than the shortest TV season that you would see. And so it's you would get more mileage out of a show. So I always am a big fan of that.
For sure. So Connor, what would your rating be?
My rating would be probably a solid 6.9 seances out of 10.
Nice. I like the 0.9 there. Yeah, I would do probably a solid 6 out of 10 main characters named Quentin.
Okay. That shows me that you watched maybe 5 minutes.
No, I couldn't think of a good one, because I was trying to do some sort of
smiley
fun
faces
thing.
in the dust on a mirror. I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah, because I had an idea that I forgot about, but yeah, no, but yeah, I enjoyed it. It wasn't just my full cup of tea. It was enjoyable, but it's not Degrassi, so.
I feel like Degrassi is getting brought up more this episode than it's ever been brought up, and which I don't think it ever has in our
I think
23
Your
episodes.
episode, Johnny. It's your episode being side by side with Degrassi.
But like I didn't
Whatever
really
it takes.
like I brought it up once for my health class thing, and then it's like getting just like referenced after that.
We
Just,
don't
like,
we don't get to choose it. Actually, yes, we do. Yeah, but I've seen other episodes of The Magicians back in college, but in no particular order, and I've really enjoyed those episodes. So I mean, perhaps if I might get into this a little bit more. I'll let you know.
you should.
There you go.
go.
Yeah. So that was the recommendation from Johnny. If you guys have seen it, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. And this week it is Luke. So Luke,
yeah.
what do you have for us?
So I was
for
trying
the
to find
next
another fun YouTube video, but I couldn't think of anything fun. So Abby and I, we decided to finally watch one of the series that was on
Degrassi.
our list
okay.
of shows to watch. That wasn't Degrassi. We watched Waco and we watched McMillions recently on Netflix and HBO Max, and so. I'm going to recommend McMillions. It is on HBO Max. So, Johnny, you'll have to message Connor about things that are totally not him not sharing the link to the.
Not at all. No.
But I would watch at least the first episode, but honestly, the cliffhanger ends on you might want to watch more. The basic premise of the show is McDonald's back in the day when they had their Monopoly game. It actually was rigged, and there was a bunch of fraud committed, and basically a huge amount of the big winning game pieces from 1989 till 2001 were stolen. There was no legitimate $1 million winners, and so it's all about how the FBI figured all this out. And so it's on HBO Max. It premiered on HBO back in February, and so it's 6 episodes. At least watch the first. But if you want to watch more, because we watched all of it in only a couple days, it's really good. It's wild, the whole story, everything about it's the whole story. So
Ooh, I'm looking forward to this. And gosh, oh man, I just wish I could watch HBO Max. I don't know how I'm gonna get through that, but oh well.
I know
Oh, well.
I can't. I know. You know, I was logging into the HBO Max and it asked me who's watching, and it said Connor and Emily and Tyler and Mom and Dad, and I was just like, oh, look at all these people that are totally my family.
Hey, actually, yeah. I mean, Mom and Dad, right? I mean, don't you have parents
have a
named Mom and Dad?
Exactly.
Mom
Just
and
like-
Dad Peterson.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I would watch that. It was insane. I mean, if you want to watch Waco 2 as a bonus, that's fun. But McMillions was crazy. One of the craziest documentary miniseries I've ever seen. Just everything about it, that like how it worked, was insane.
Well,
So-
that's weird. I mean, I trust your opinion on that, so I'm probably gonna follow in the same line of thought with yours. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. So let us know in the comments down below if you guys watch any of our recommendations, listen to it, partake in it. Please just let us know. And yeah, so tell us your thoughts on this episode. What are the bits of news that you guys felt particularly touched by? And again, please get this podcast around. Tell your friends, tell your family, and then tell them we all say hi. So yeah, so that
Hello.
Hi guys. So that will do it for this episode. And so thank you guys for tuning in. Happy birthday to Johnny, even though by the time this episode airs, it still won't be your birthday.
But it will be a couple days after. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's bait. I mean, when my episode came out, my birthday was the next day.
So tell me happy birthday in the comments. Thanks.
Yes.
So see you guys next time.
Bye bye.